My name is Claire, and I am 32 years old. On a deeply gloomy and freezing evening in the perpetually rainy city of Seattle, I was sitting entirely alone on the hardwood floor of my completely empty living room. My phone was in my hand, its blue light washing over my expressionless face. Outside the window, raindrops were hitting the glass, their sound echoing loudly through the vacant house. On the screen was a photograph that had settled the entire account of the last 5 years of my life in a single heartbeat. The picture was of a breathtaking, historic, and incredibly expensive villa on the Amalfi Coast in Italy. It was the exact same villa I had booked for my 5th wedding anniversary, scraping together every penny for 3 long years and losing countless nights of sleep over it. But I wasn't in that picture. Standing there on the villa's balcony was my mother-in-law, Brenda. She held a crystal glass of expensive red wine in one hand, wearing that familiar, victorious, ear-to-ear smile she always wore to church on Sundays, when she needed to show the world she had the perfect family. Right beneath the photo, she had proudly typed the caption, "Finally, a peaceful family vacation without the drama. We are all so happy here." I stared at that picture for a long time, the way a passerby stares at the site of an old, horrific crash where everything has already been reduced to ashes. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel angry. A strange, profound silence just settled deep inside my bones. It was the exact kind of silence that takes over when you suddenly realize that the home you spent years building with someone was actually just a door to someone else's house, and you never even held the key. This story isn't just about how my mother-in-law stole the vacation of my dreams. It is about how that one massive theft finally made me realize my own true worth. Something I had forgotten for years. I have always been a very quiet person. Maybe because I grew up in an environment where only the loudest people were ever heard, and I accepted at a very young age that peace was my greatest strength. I was 26 when I first met Mark. Mark came from a family in Chicago where loving someone meant constantly interfering in their business and taking total control of their every decision. His family was like a blaring old radio in a house where nobody had the off switch. Brenda was the undisputed matriarch. To her, Mark's life was a personal project she could alter whenever and however she pleased. When we were dating, I thought Mark was a little different from his mother. He seemed to understand my silence, or at least I thought he did. After we got married, we moved to Seattle. I thought the 2,000 miles between Chicago and Seattle would act as a protective wall between us and his family. I thought we would finally get to live our lives our own way. But I didn't realize back then that walls built out of mere hope, rather than brick and mortar, can be brought down in an instant by a single ringing phone. In Seattle, I worked as a project manager at a large tech company. My life was very sorted and strictly disciplined. I planned everything down to the smallest detail. I believed that if I just managed everything perfectly, if I never uttered a single complaint, Mark's family might one day fully accept me. But that never happened. To them, I was always just a cold, boring outsider who dragged their precious boy far away. Our 5th wedding anniversary was approaching. I thought this was the perfect opportunity to take our marriage far away from all those screaming voices that constantly echoed between us, even from 2,000 miles away. After months of scouring the internet, I found that villa on the Amalfi Coast. It was a secluded estate with massive windows looking straight out into the blue ocean. No noise, no interference, no ringing phones. Just Mark and me. The rent for that villa was way out of my league. To pay for it, I worked extra shifts at the office for months on end. I completely gave up buying my favorite expensive coffee. I didn't buy a single new piece of clothing for 2 whole years. Every night after Mark fell asleep, I would stare at the pictures of that villa on my laptop screen, hoping that once we got there, all our troubles and all the distance between us would vanish forever. That villa wasn't just a regular vacation to me. It was my final, desperate gamble to save my crumbling marriage. Exactly 1 month before the trip, Mark's entire family was at our house in Seattle for Thanksgiving. As always, the house was deafeningly loud. The TV was blasting, and everyone was shouting over each other just to have a conversation. I was alone in the kitchen prepping the turkey when I heard Brenda's incredibly loud, overly excited voice coming from the dining room. I wiped my hands on a towel and walked out. Brenda was standing right in front of Mark's laptop, which he must have accidentally left open. Mark's face had turned completely white, his eyes wide with panic. Pointing her finger at the screen, Brenda shouted for everyone to hear, "Oh my God, this is absolutely amazing. You booked this massive villa for all of us in Italy. I can't believe what an incredible, thoughtful son you are to take the whole family along for your anniversary." I immediately looked at Mark. I held my breath, waiting for him to tell his mother. "No, Mom, you misunderstood. This is just for Claire and me. It is our special 5th anniversary trip. We saved up for this." But Mark didn't say a single word. His silence made the air in that room so heavy I could barely breathe. He just looked down at the floor. Brenda immediately started working the phones, gathering the whole family right there on the spot, making all the plans for Italy. Right then and there, they even decided which relative would get which bedroom, naturally assigning the ocean view suite to Brenda. My dream villa, the one I bought by sacrificing my sleep and saving every single penny, had instantly been turned into a free summer camp for his family. That night, after all the guests went to sleep, I closed our bedroom door and confronted Mark. I kept my voice absolutely low because I knew perfectly well that raising your voice in this house only created more noise, never a solution. I spoke in a very calm tone. "You know exactly how hard I worked for that villa. You watched me stay up night after night working. You know what that place means to me. First thing tomorrow morning, you are going to tell your mother they are not coming with us to Italy, and that this is our trip alone." Mark gave me that cowardly look he always used whenever he wanted to dodge any shred of responsibility. He put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Claire, why do you always have to complicate things? Why don't you understand? If I tell them no right now, it will break Mom's heart. They are so excited about this trip. Didn't you see her face? Can't we just compromise this one time? It will be so much fun if we all go together. You are part of the family too." I took a very deep breath. In that single moment, it became crystal clear to me that Mark would never, ever put me above his family. He was a weak man who was terrified of nothing in this world more than his mother's slight displeasure. I pushed his hand off my shoulder and told him, "Listen to me very carefully, Mark. If your family goes to Italy on my dime, I am absolutely not going. That is my final decision, and I will not compromise. I truly believed my ultimatum would shake him to his core and stop him in his tracks. I thought that after 5 years of marriage he would choose me, at least this once." But on the morning of the flight to Italy, I woke up to find Mark standing by the closet, packing his suitcase. He didn't meet my eyes once. Stuffing his clothes into the bag, he just mumbled, "I can't send Mom and the family all that way to a foreign country by themselves. They will get completely lost. I will be back soon, Claire. Please don't make such a big deal out of this. Strong people don't make such a fuss. Strong people don't make such a fuss." It was the exact same toxic phrase Brenda always used to shut people up in her house. And now, my own husband was using that same poisonous line against me, in my own home, to silence me. I watched him walk out the door without saying another word. I watched him get into the taxi from the window. I didn't shed a single tear. I didn't scream or make a scene. I walked back into the kitchen and quietly brewed myself a cup of black coffee. There was a thick fog over Seattle that morning, but inside my mind, cutting right through that fog, The path ahead of me looked as clear as glass. I spent the next 2 whole weeks absolutely alone in that big, empty house. On the actual day of my 5th wedding anniversary, I was sitting at my desk in the office drafting a brutally boring meeting report, while my husband was drinking expensive wine on the Italian coast using my money. Social media was flooded all day with Brenda's pictures, photos of their whole family laughing on the beach. Pictures of their lavish meals on the grand balcony of that villa. Under every single photo, Brenda's church friends and relatives commented about what a wonderful, devoted son Mark was for taking his mother to Italy. But in those hundreds of comments, not a single person asked where Claire was. Nobody missed the one human being who had paid for that entire trip with her hard-earned money. Those 2 weeks were the most important, defining weeks of my entire life. I could have cried. I could have called Mark in Italy, picked a massive fight, and ruined his trip. But I did none of those things. I did what I had been doing best since I was a little girl. I quietly made a plan. I pulled a notebook out of my drawer and started doing the math. I checked exactly how much money I had left over. I had my own separate bank account that didn't have Mark's name on it. And thankfully, Brenda had never found out about it. I went online and started looking for a new apartment far away from Seattle. I found a tiny, quiet mountain town where nobody could ever just show up at my doorstep unannounced. I got on the phone with my current landlord and calmly completed all the legal paperwork to break our lease. Then, I started packing up all my belongings. As I boxed up my things one by one, I realized something very strange. I noticed that I didn't possess a single thing given to me by Mark that I felt sad leaving behind. Every single gift, every item he had ever bought me, was tainted with his family's or Brenda's taste. I left all those pretentious items right there in that empty house. Taping up every cardboard box felt like I was reaching deep inside my body, pulling out something old, heavy, and rotten, and throwing it in the trash. There was no anger left in me. There was only a cold, hard clarity. When you fully realize that the person you considered your home never actually belonged to you in the first place, walking away doesn't hurt. It sets you free. Exactly 2 weeks later, they flew back from Italy. It was raining heavily in Seattle when Mark's taxi pulled into the driveway. I watched them arrive from the upstairs window. Mark looked exhausted, but Brenda's face carried that same old arrogant glow, acting like she had just returned from winning a massive war. They both walked straight through the front door. Seeing the transformed scene inside, Mark froze dead in his tracks. The entire house was completely bare. Just an old sofa and the dining table sat in their usual spots. None of my pictures were on the walls. The curtains were gone. The kitchen was stripped bare. Brenda looked around in absolute panic, then quickly dug into her purse and pulled out a tiny, cheap-looking box. She placed the box on the dining table, dripping her voice in fake sweetness, and said, "Claire, we brought this little gift for you from Italy. I know you are mad about missing the trip, but you have to understand that for us, family always comes first. We had so much fun, and to be perfectly honest, the trip had absolutely no drama without you around, and we were all able to relax so nicely." I walked down the stairs, looking straight at her. There were no tears in my eyes, no complaints written on my face. I didn't even touch that cheap box on the table. Right next to it, I placed a very clean, crisp white envelope. Inside that envelope were our finalized divorce papers, completely signed by me, with all the legal proceedings already in motion. Mark picked up that white envelope with violently shaking hands. He read the papers, and the blood completely drained from his face. He tried to speak, but no clear sound made it out of his throat. He looked at me the way you look at a total stranger you have never met before in your life. I kept my voice perfectly low. My calm tone echoed clearly through that large, empty room. I looked directly into Brenda's eyes and said, "You didn't steal my vacation, Brenda. You bought me the greatest freedom of my life for dirt cheap, and I will be grateful to you for the rest of my days. You showed me exactly what my real place is in your son's life. Now, that place is entirely and forever yours." Mark panicked and tried to stop me. He tried to grab my hands, pleading, "Claire, please don't do this. We can sit down and talk this through calmly. We can go to a really good counselor. I will fix everything." But I pulled my hand back and cut him off right there. I maintained absolute composure and told him, "Mark, we could have sat down and talked before you decided to leave me completely alone at this door to go to Italy on my dime. You sold my years of hard work, all my hopes, and my love for pennies on the dollar just to entertain your family for a few days. I have absolutely nothing left to give you, and nothing left to say." I set my house keys down on the dining table. I pulled my last small bag onto my shoulder and turned toward the front door. For that entire duration, Brenda couldn't manage to force a single word out of her mouth. Maybe in her entire long life, she had never witnessed a human being take back their power so calmly without making a single sound. Her kind of people were used to drama, arguments, and screaming matches, but profound silence is a dangerous weapon that people like her have absolutely no idea how to fight. I walked out of that house and got into my car in the pouring rain. The exact second I turned the ignition, the rain stopped falling from the sky, and Seattle's perpetually gloomy horizon actually began to clear. I put the car in drive and pulled away, without looking back at that house a single time. It was a decision I made without an ounce of fear, without any hesitation, and without a single drop of regret. Today marks exactly 1 year since all of that happened. Right now, I am sitting on that very same Amalfi Coast in Italy. But this isn't that massive, expensive villa they stayed in. It is a tiny, ancient, but breathtakingly beautiful cafe right on the edge of the water. I am completely alone here. I have an incredible cup of fresh coffee in my hand, and right in front of me is nothing but the vast, blue, tranquil ocean. The only sound here is the crashing of the waves. I never have to explain myself to anyone anymore. I am never afraid of someone's loud voice. I started my life completely fresh in that little mountain town. I spend my days doing exactly what I truly love. And absolutely nobody can take a single step inside my new home without my explicit permission. Sometimes, when I sit in quiet places like this, I do think about Mark. I heard through the grapevine from old friends that he still lives with his mother Brenda in that same old house. She still dictates every vacation he takes and holds total authority over every decision in his life. He turned his life into a cage where the door is always wide open, but he simply cannot fly out. But I have taken flight. There is no one else's noise in my new life. There is only the beautiful, quiet music that I play for myself every single morning. Reaching this point in the story, I want to ask all of you one very important question. Have you ever sacrificed your own happiness, your hard work, and your dreams in this life for a person who never once valued your tears or your peace of mind? If you have, please tell me your story down in the comments below. I promise you I read every single one. If you enjoy stories like mine that help us realize our own true strength, please like this video right now, and be sure to subscribe to BookBite Studio to join me on more journeys like this. I will see you very soon in the next story, where yet another person takes back the lost pages of their life. Until then, take care of yourself, and protect your peace.